Hello. Welcome to tonight's Finance Committee meeting. We have a roll call.
Mr. Fisher.
Yes, I am here.
Ms. Chesser.
Here.
Mr. Dahl is absent. Ms. Crimer.
Here.
Mr. Michelson.
Present.
Are you here or not?
I'm present.
I will put forth a motion to excuse Mr. Darren Dahl. He has a massive migraine tonight.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Put forth a motion to adopt the agenda as posted. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I put forth a motion to adopt the minutes from March 24th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Did everybody have a chance to review it?
Yes, and I thought there was one thing, but it might have been on the other ones. It's good. I think it's on the other
All
one.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Next, our favorite part of the night, hearing from Eric.
Hello there.
Hello, financial package.
Okay, for the month of April fiscal year of 2025, the village had a combined bank balance of $4,078,623.02. Of this amount, $251,230.44 can be found in the village's primary checking account, and $2,127,232.94 can be found in the village's high-interest savings account. The remaining balance resides in other village dedicated funds. The village generated $91,199.30 in general fund income tax receipts. RETA collections surpassed April of the previous year by approximately 5% and year-to-date by just under 16%. The village has received the first biannual disbursement of real estate taxes from the Hamilton County Auditor in the amount of $929,428.32. The homestead rollback funds from the state of Ohio are still outstanding as of this bank reconciliation. The village received $292,205 in general fund receipts. This number is $48,501.24 more than April of fiscal year 24 due to increased collections from RETA, various other things as well. But the receipt of American Tower funds, the $25,000, and increased returns from Fifth Third savings account. So the Star Fund earned $6,332.42, and the Fifth Third savings account earned $4,953.45. So again, a combined interest earnings of over $10,000 a month that didn't exist before this program. Top 5 payees for the month for payroll: Deer Park, Silverton, Rumpke Container, Ohio Police and Fire, and the Ohio Police Public Employee Retirement System. Total village general fund appropriation spent for the month was in the amount of $188,229.41. This figure is about $16,977.60 less than April of fiscal year 24. The village had 30 outstanding payments that totaled $33,147.63. Village administration will continue to monitor appropriation spend and make any adjustments deemed necessary.
Thank you, Eric, for the report.
My
Anybody
pleasure.
have any questions?
Nope.
All right, we'll put the motion to full council to pass this.
I have a quick question.
Go.
Just total non-consequential. The 25,000 from the tower, where does it currently sit
It sits in the general fund.
in the general?
Now, that sits in the general fund, but that's also taking into consideration the council passed a resolution saying that that money should be dedicated towards completing the walking path in the park.
So sorry, let me refine the question. Is it currently sitting in like an interest-bearing account? Because I saw like the previous minutes were still waiting on like hearing from getting the quotes on the path and all this, so while it's sitting, I figured.
So the way that
It's
it's really two different conversations. We have within fund accounting, you have what your bank account says, and then you have what your accounting software says. So all of our funds are pooled together. We have in the general fund checking account about $250,000. It sways between $100,000 and $250,000 depending on payroll, depending on major expenses, depending on if the insurances have been paid. So depending on what time of the month that that, meaning it's the 31st, but if that hasn't cleared yet, so there's a lot more in that bank account. But the general number of non-interest bearing accounts is somewhere between $100,000 and $250,000. That's consequential by about $300 a month in interest, but I generally err on the side of caution so that we're not ever in a position where we have insufficient funds to meet any, right? So that's the position that we're in there. Anything in addition to that, so that would be the money that's sitting in Star Fund, which is over $2 million right now, and the money that's sitting in Star Fund is about 1.7, and the money that's sitting in the Fifth Third Savings is over $2 million. So the 25,000 is mixed in to whatever that calculation is. It's two different conversations.
Okay, yeah, I was just.
So yeah, I know it's a little bit confusing
curious.
because you think, well, you got $25,000, is that earning interest? 86% of it is earning interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
So
pure curiosity.
yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. Any other questions on the finance report? Okay.
All right, next we have discussion on PD vehicle 216. Has Kim come before in the past?
Yes.
And Eric, you want to go ahead and first?
Yeah, so again, this is really all in line with the vehicle replacement policy that I will say I spearheaded when I first started, just to have a very clear scoring system for every vehicle and replacement schedule that it should be replaced every 5 years. Obviously, we know that 216 is coming up on 10 years old and is a higher maintenance vehicle. There has been significant effort to replace that vehicle, to identify a replacement for that vehicle. But just right now, police vehicles are hard to find. There was talk about doing a pickup truck, and then the pickup truck fell off, and now the pickup truck is, the decision from what I understand from the police department is they would rather pursue, right, one in the hand is better than two in the bush. This is one vehicle which has been identified, is available now, and hopefully will be deployed before 2026. Another issue that we're seeing, and Chief can probably speak to this a little bit more, is that vehicle procurement is one problem, but getting the outfit complete. This has been, whether you're talking about ambulances, which are taking 2.5 years to do, we see that from DPS, whether you say it's a service truck, which we're already 9 months out after the F-550 was purchased, it still has not been delivered because they're always short on certain parts. The Tahoe, which was purchased back in December, we're now in May. We still have not seen the Tahoe. It's not complete. We're 6 months behind minimum before we can deploy these cars. So the police department has decided, let's move forward with this Tahoe. And I am recommending, based on the timeline of actual delivery of these vehicles, to look at purchasing a second car, which again would be deployed towards the beginning of 2026, assuming that all of these timelines are consistent, which we have no reason to believe why they wouldn't be. I mean, everything is taking much longer than was expected. This does not affect the budget. The budget is exactly what it was, and we will still be able to make those payments because we waited almost 6 months to do the second purchase instead of doing it at the beginning of the year when we only had one vehicle identified. We could potentially purchase two, but this is just to purchase one, which is replacing 216 as a front line, and then 122, which was the one that was in the significant accident on Elbrook, would be the next one in line to replace. And again, it was purchased in I believe it's purchased in 22, but I believe it's a 2021 model year. But in any case, this is looking down the line to make sure that we have a car to replace it. I can't speak to the necessity of the immediate need for that, but I can speak to the timeline that it's taking to get these vehicles actually deployed.
Can you remind me which one 216 is the
216 is the
spreadsheet I have
CIT.
doesn't have all the models.
216 is the 2016 Ford Explorer, which is currently marked as community CIT, which is community impact team. Thank you. And that will be kept as a secondary vehicle, but that should not be in frontline service, which I believe currently it is, because we
Out
haven't
of
gotten,
necessity, yes.
right, because we don't have the Tahoe yet. Yeah, so that's what, the recommendation right now is to purchase one, but again, is to already start thinking about the second purchase to be delivered, hopefully in the beginning of 26, instead of us having to wait until May for our Tahoe, which we purchased 6 months ago.
And the Tahoe replaced vehicle 118, is that right?
I can't remember if it was 118 or 218.
One of the,
It was one of the Durangos, whichever one was sold most recently. I think it was 118.
Could you get me an updated list of this?
Sure.
My notes are getting.
Yeah,
Wow.
same. I've got like a messy old one from January 24th.
Yeah.
And could you add to it the make and models?
And if it has green lettering or what?
That is a valid question.
What?
That is a valid question. Who changed our marketing on half of our police vehicles?
we did. Police department did.
But why? We have two different,
I know, because it's
you're breaking
Source
conventions of
vendor
marketing.
sourcing. We're having difficulty getting any consistency with that graphics package.
Mm.
And on top of it, when we did the F-150, the way that the car is laid out, the windows are low and it didn't fit on the vehicle. So we actually had a graphics package that the installer says we're not gonna do this, it won't work. So we had to find something that's not, it'll be universal as far as like what type of vehicle goes on. We don't have to worry about stripes hitting windows or wheel wells or anything like that, so.
So which version is that one going forward? Is it the green one?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
It's more modular, so it can be adjusted to whatever vehicle it's on.
Right.
And you like the color green. No.
Sure, I like it, I think it looks good.
Yeah, it looks.
Any other questions about vehicle purchase recommendations?
So originally 216 was gonna be sold, correct? Last year. We were speaking about it being returned.
We found that we have more value in keeping it as an auxiliary vehicle than what we would get out of it for the age of the vehicle. We wouldn't get much in return. We think there's more value in keeping it and using it as an auxiliary vehicle. Last week, most of the week, I think we operated with just 2 working cruisers. That was one of them. So we were fortunate we had it. And going forward, if we can get these new vehicles into the rotation, this vehicle could be a backup vehicle. We could use it for special events without taking vehicles off the road. And when there's any kind of maintenance or anything like that, we just have another one. In doing research, the value we were going to get back for it just wasn't worth parting with.
Why were we down to 2? We have 8 total that can be used for police, correct?
We have,
Plus the 2 unmarked.
yeah, we have 4 marked cruisers plus the K9 cruiser that's marked. K9 cruiser can't be used for patrol by anybody other than the K9 officer just because of how it's equipped. And then the other 2, we've been having ongoing mechanical and electrical issues with.
What was the value of selling the car?
I don't have the number. I can get that from Captain Reed.
Do we know the annual insurance premiums on it?
It's an umbrella policy that covers all vehicles.
So it did not go up at all for
No.
another vehicle?
I believe the number was $11,000 to
What we
sell.
would have gotten.
I believe, but I'm not, I would also have to
Yeah, I
double check.
can't remember the highest number. Yeah.
You guys are looking for grants to fund this program. Did you find anything?
We're still waiting on responses.
Okay, so is this an ask or a?
This is not an ask. This is, it's budgeted for, the ask is to approve the already budgeted for item. an additional ask, which is also not, again, it's not anything beyond the budget, is to consider a second vehicle, which would be also within the budget for this year, since it was, it's half the year where we didn't purchase and make payments on a second vehicle. That would reduce the amount of purchased vehicles next year, but assuming that the delivery of that vehicle won't be until the beginning of next year, I believe that that's an intelligent, projected decision to do that just a little bit early.
Okay, just for clarification, right? One vehicle is due to buy this year, next vehicle is due to buy next year.
Correct.
Due to the fact that it's taking a long time for cars to get delivered and be ready to be put onto the road. So what is being suggested is that we allow them to ready purchase next year's vehicle, that this way it would actually get delivered when we need it, instead of
Correct.
going through this whole idea of looking for a new vehicle until it gets delivered. To take us into 2027, we should approve it now that we can start working on purchasing a new
Correct.
vehicle.
So that doesn't mean that that second vehicle is going to be purchased this month, and it doesn't even mean that it's going to be a Silverado, which is the one that we're talking about now. It could be a different vehicle, whatever's available. But this allows the administration and the police department to start making those moves and making those decisions without having to wait until the next council meeting and then potentially losing that car.
Got it. You need a motion? What do you need?
A motion to recommend.
Motion to recommend.
Second. Any discussion, further discussion?
I'd love to look at the insurance policy sometime, because there's always an underlying policy underneath the umbrella. The umbrella is just if it goes over the initial policy. So I'd love to take a look at that sometime, just in general. Each car is
So ask
outlined in
Eric for
the
that.
underlying policies.
We're actually in the midst of starting the audit of the insurance policy this year, so it's good timing.
I'd love to take a look.
As soon as information is available regarding the insurance, if it could please be forwarded to Finance Committee. Just to review it, see, to make sure that that's making sense, that we're not being hit up with insurance on the 216 also, that will make it a new, just, an extra expense and a bigger burden on us. All right, we have a motion on the table, we have a second. All those in favor to recommend and give permission to the administration to continue looking for next year's vehicle now?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So the body cam in-car video replacements apparently is still being weighed.
Still waiting to hear back. That's congressionally directed spending. They said that we should know, I believe, by July, if I remember that time frame correctly, but we would not be eligible to spend that money until it's received, which will be in next March or April. That'll be March or April of 26. So that would be contingent appropriations on that.
Next on the agenda, we have the walking path, cost updates and scope of work. So we had a conversation regarding this idea in executive. And do you wanna, Brittany, would you like to give us what the outcome was from executive on this topic?
Well, this is kind of touching it, but not exactly what's on this agenda. But yes, we talked about with the park master plans and the RFPs, there was a idea to just go straight to our engineers for a quote instead of spending money on designers. There was lots of discussion. We did not decide one way or the other, but what we decided is that we would open it to our engineers, that if they wanted to submit a proposal for what they would put forth, we would then compare it against the two revised proposals we received.
That has been transmitted to the engineer.
Perfect. But this one was, they had already given us a quote on the walking path, which I forgot how much money, but it was a lot
About
of money.
$110,000.
Right. And it had some requirements in there that we were not clear on why they were there. So we were asking them for more information about driving on the walking path, all of those good things, and having them revise it. Is that correct? And that's what we're still waiting on.
Trying to remember where that was. I think that was not so, was
No?
that maybe on hold? Trying to remember.
No, we're expecting a response from the engineer by mid-June.
Oh, that's correct. I'm sorry. I was getting confused. Yes.
So revised walking path quote by mid-June.
Well, it's not revised, it's the original discussion that we had, but things can be deleted out of that if we make the decision that we don't want that to be a drivable path.
Right. It was, I think they said they were going to do something itemized where it would be clear
Gotcha.
what things
Okay.
cost and what additional cost would be necessary.
Okay. It might be helpful to actually send out what we've gotten because we just had the conversations about it. So specifically before executive, when we're actually going to be comparing the written proposals, if we could have something from the engineer by then, that would be ideal. Because otherwise we're just going to be, we have two physical things that we can read and compare apples to apples, and then we're going to have a verbal.
No, so that they'll have a
Okay.
response to. That's why I'm saying I was getting confused and putting them together.
Gotcha.
It's two different things. One
Yes.
is that they will give us a scope of work markup, and it'll be very similar to the revised park plans that we've
Uh-huh.
received. And then on the other hand, will be specific to the walking path, which will have itemized
Cost. Okay.
cost and cost increases depending on what we want.
Okay.
I'm remembering that correctly, right?
That's
good.
Okay.
So what is your,
It was in the packet, the April packet.
The April.
Executive packet.
so Ms. Kramer, what is do you have a projected timeline for making a consideration on the RFP at this time? Or are you just waiting to
We
hear this
were,
additional information?
we were hoping to make a decision in last executive committee. But then the idea of what if our engineers just did this, that would be more cost effective. There's obviously a loss if you're not having it designed by actual environmental designers, right? So to honor that ask, we asked that the engineers submit a proposal. So in our June meeting, we will make a decision and recommend it to council whether or not we go with one of the two organizations that submitted bids, or if we go with our engineers. So we want a written proposal from the engineers to be able to compare that.
Okay.
We also had discussion if we're gonna skip the whole RFP on it and just go straight to the walking path.
Right, because that was a separate idea that's being worked through you all, finance, us. Or if we wanted to combine it.
Doesn't like to spend extra money.
I know you don't, but do you want a poorly designed park?
That's the question. Which one is worth what? How much money is that price point for our village?
Yep.
All right, next, Eric, I believe this is items yours over here.
Yeah, so the next item is managing budgets and end of year equipment purchases within fund accounting. There's a concept called encumbering funds in a purchase order, which if you're really good with your budget, which I will highly commend the police department for being good with their budget and making sure that there was money at the end of the year, that if they wanted to make specific purchases, then that would be allowed. I directed the finance clerk, who is no longer with us, to encumber the funds. And I think I told her no less than 3 times. And somehow it got missed. It was not just in the police department, it happened in the service department as well. There was a purchase that happened in 25, but we weren't invoiced for. That purchase was to basically refurbish the floors. And again, the funds were not encumbered. So when we ended the last year, I think it was about $67,000 in the black. So that number, 67,000, really should have been minus 14,000 approximately from these funds, which were supposed to be encumbered for purchases that happened in 24, and then they came out of the 25 budget. So the equipment budget in the police department and the operations budget in the service department were reduced by the numbers that you see on your agenda because those monies were not appropriately encumbered. I didn't catch it until after year end when the police department came to me and said, why are we burning through our, like, how does this make sense that we're burning through our budget? We haven't made these purchases. Well, that was when those purchases went through. So we can't change it. We can't go back to 24 and we can't do anything about that. There's nothing to do about it tonight, but what it is just to be aware of, and something that is part of, managing the budget, is that we will eventually have to amend appropriations in order for those line items to remain solvent. The ask is to increase based on the amount of those purchases that were made in 24 and were actually paid out in 25 to be credited back to those line items. That would be a temporary this year only. It doesn't increase that line item by that much for next year, but it would be for this year. It's a little bit of an accounting annoyance for me because of course I'm going to have to keep track of that, and it'll be easier for me to balance the budget knowing that. But it's just something to be aware of that we discovered, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, when Captain Reed mentioned it to me, and then Jim came over and said, yeah, I noticed that too. And I found those specific purchases. So tied to those specific purchases, it's not expanded any beyond that, but it did happen. So something to be aware of. Any questions on that?
No.
Not on that specifically, but when will we start to see the appropriations for next year?
That will be at the next meeting. I will have that. I mean, I'm 75% of the way through it already, even 80%. I'm not at a point where I'm fully comfortable presenting it. I will present it to you in June.
Okay.
And then you'll have the full month of June until the July meeting
To approve.
when there will be the public hearing beforehand and then the opportunity to approve. Exactly.
Is it possible to get line item budgets for each of the departments when we're looking at that?
Yeah, sure.
Thank
I can give you that detail. There is a packet that I plan on putting out, and I hope I can do it for the budget. That'll mock what Silverton has, so it'll have like what you're approving on the front page, but then behind that it'll have all the detail and all the specific items, and then you can, But again, most of that is pretty much the same as what you're seeing in the finance packet. It'll just be that for 25, for 26,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Any other questions? I can move into the next item if you'd like.
Definitely.
Okay, so the benefits pool, which the village participates in, is called the Center for Local Government Benefits Pool, CLGBP for short. Met, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks ago also. I sat in on that, which is always very interesting to me because I get to see who else is in the membership pool. It's I believe, 700 members total. And we are one of 15 or so municipalities who participate in the program. We're one of the smaller fish, but it's a really good place to be in a pool that's that big, so you're just spreading the risk that much more. They reported to us that there will only be a 5.5% increase in insurance costs for the year. Originally, they were projecting in the low teens. Then expenses really fell off in November of 24. Since November, we've actually been under budget every month, just in terms of the general pool. But what they had recommended at that point, they said it was probably going to be about an 8.5% increase, which I believe nationally it's over 10% annual increase in these size funds. And even in smaller funds, I think it's more volatile, depending on, especially if you're self-funded. If you're not self-funded, then you're paying significant more overhead to begin with. But their recommendation was, number one, to actually reduce the prescription drug coverage from the current plan that we have to a more affordable plan that would save the plan about $200,000 annually, and then to reinvest. They have, my understanding is that the reserve is about $2 million higher than what is actuarially required by law. So the $2 million extra in reserve, similar to our STAR fund, will be invested and should be giving them another $200,000 of maybe it's $3 million. I think it's $3 million. Please don't quote me on that yet. I'd have to look that up. But it would be about $200,000 of additional revenue that is otherwise not part of the plan that would again reduce the necessity to increase costs. So that would put it at 5.5% for 2026. So just something to be aware of as we're building appropriations. There is going to be an increase in cost in medical costs, but it's 5.5% as opposed to where everywhere else seems to be seeing anywhere between 7 and 10%.
Thanks for that. The pending items, I missed it. There should have been one item here from last time, that app discussion that we started last meeting. I up with the motion to add the app discussion to the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So last time we discussed the app was, how much it would cost us to keep it open. Originally, we were told that it's not gonna have cost throughout the year. Throughout the years, it was a one-time fee that we felt we were overpaying, but the one-time fee. Now they are telling us that there is a fee involved. And we wanted to know what that fee is for and what does it cover.
So the fee itself is for managing the technical side of the app. When there are changes that need to be made in the app itself, they do that based on information that we submit. That information, so there was no additional fee the first 2 years because that was included in the purchase of the app itself, and that was all done through ARPA funding. So we were able to negotiate the fee down from $6,000 to $5,000. At this point, no decision has been made about going forward with whether to activate that particular fee or not.
Okay, $5,000 to keep an app open that had 150 downloads in our village since the beginning of this app. So we are going to be paid per
Where-
person.
Can I ask where the statistic is coming? This is from the app itself?
About 100. You want an exact number?
It would be helpful. And if that's from the inception, that's not year to date?
I think they're looking at total downloads.
Okay.
Subscribers.
Okay, because a lot of times these algorithms will really only give you year to date. You have to look, I'm just asking, I have not seen this. This is the first time.
156, 55 Android and 101 iOS downloads.
So 156 total downloads of the app since its inception.
Correct.
You got that directly from
Directly
that?
from that company. To me, that is not worth $5,000 to keep it open. There was discussion that maybe we have not been using the app properly, but to me, that's a lot of money to keep the app open.
Is our website is designed mobile friendly?
The app basically is widgets.
The app,
pulled
the
from our
app
website.
exactly just pulling everything from the website.
I know, but
No.
I don't think we need it. You can always just download a shortcut to the website onto your phone, which is why I would ask if it's mobile friendly. Just use that as an app.
The only difference that this app officially offers is that it push notifications.
I personally, if we are asking for discussions, I would rather us reallocate that 5,000 towards community engagement and postcards, those sorts of things that they've been asking for. Because I think that's a better way of
Reallocating money
communicating.
that doesn't exist.
Right, but if we had $5,000 that we were gonna spend, that's where I would put it,
Correct.
towards
Meaning
actually
this is-
mailing out
What I'm
information.
understanding you're saying is that definitely for this event, for this app, it's not worth the $5,000. And if we're having discussion to spend $5,000 in reaching people in the community, we should use it for stuff that the community would use, as in postcards or stuff like that, that is.
We know it's gonna hit more people than the 156 that downloaded the app. Whether they read the postcard or not,
Correct.
it has a wider reach. If the understanding was that we did not have to pay for this, have we looked at the contract again? I was not around for this, but did you all look at the contract to actually see that it said no fee?
I did not review the contract. When we were in the room, we had a meeting with the guy on Zoom. And he told us that there was absolutely no cost to keeping it open.
So if we don't pay this, what happens to the app? It's still there, it just isn't updated?
For a period of time, like for 60 to 90 days, it'll still be there, but then once it's not updated, it'll go dead.
Will it go down fully or just the push notifications will work?
It'll become inactive. It'll be removed from the Apple and the Android stores because they're no longer supporting it at that point.
It's not using our servers, I think is the technical problem. We got vendor lock-in because of that. It's not using our servers for the information that's put out, or for the information that's on the app. Comment being made, that's just pulling information from our website. It's pulling information from a cache that's on their servers, right? That's why when we change stuff on our website, it's not automatically changed on the app. It has to be in their cache. We discovered this late last year. So not paying then, takes the servers offline, that fee the app.
So there's a way to look at this in terms of a $20,000+ investment has been made in this app that we'll be letting go of if we deactivate it. One of the things that I made council aware of probably 6 months ago was that we can be using this better. Everybody's been dependent on me generating content for the app. We have looked at rolling out responsibility to community engagement to be able to use the app. There could be a case made for going ahead and making this investment this year to see if we can learn how to use it better and increase our base. I would say if we aren't able to do that in this next year, then definitely the decision is to close the app down because it's not being used. My concern would be giving up this $20,000 investment we've already made, which came from ARPA funding, is something to consider.
That is true. Sometimes people make bad investments. And to keep on putting money into a bad investment not always is a wise idea. We basically almost pay $200 per person to download our app. And that's not a wise way of spending ARPA money, and to keep on putting money into it when, I don't know, if there is a feel that way and they want to convince us that we should continue working with them, let them give us another year on the house and we could try working on it. But for us to put in more money into it, then that's definitely going to be the end of our business, according to my opinion. We'll have to see what the other council members feel. But if they let us extend it, we could try working on it, give out different opportunities to people, but to put in more money into it, to me, doesn't sound right. I'm up to anybody else's opinion over here, but to me, it definitely doesn't sound right.
I agree.
Go ahead. Thoughts?
I agree.
I don't think we need to put more money into it. We're just throwing bad money after bad money. I think we should have used the last 2 years to try to increase usage of it. But there's 9 people out of the 156 in this room that probably have the app on their phone. And we probably have it because we're sitting in this room, not because we
My
know about
spouse
it from
also
anything
has it
else.
Just because I'm here,
Right,
so that's probably 16 out of that.
right.
Maybe your daughter also, so now we're up to 18.
My daughter doesn't have a phone yet.
So,
I think we try other community engagement efforts.
that would definitely be a smarter way of using the 20,000 originally. Question about the rest of the ARPA money, if we'd be able to use it for that. But, where we stand right now, the motion will be, I put forth a motion not to invest another penny into this app. If we get a go-ahead from them to try that, continue to open for another 6 months or so to a year, and give us all access and try to pump it up and see if that helps, I'm willing to do that as long as it doesn't cost us any money. But if it does, then my opinion is, I put forth a motion that we shall stop that. Do I have a second?
Second,
Any other discussion?
The only thing I would say is I'm fine if they give us a year of us trying it, but there's one thing of having like a well-designed app or all the appropriate information or whatnot, and then there's actually getting people to download it. Like people didn't, like, okay, we're not happy with it now, but when it came out, like no one knew that and still no one downloaded it. And it was, from my understanding, it was pushed on the website, we mentioned it a bunch, it was kind of put out there, and no one was really interested anyway, so. I don't think necessarily, if we can get it for free, sure. But I don't think necessarily redesigning or adding more information is gonna increase desire for usage or anything like that.
I would agree. I would rather use that to redesign our website, which is one of the goals that executive is working on.
I have the app on my phone and I go to the website.
All those in favor?
I,
Motion passes. Our next finance meeting is June 9th, 7 p.m. Monday. I thought with the
The mega
motion,
meeting,
mhm.
back to the summer mega meetings.
Yeah, that's some
Not
schedule.
What did you say, June the what?
June 9th. You got it. You just have to give me.
all those, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
We adjourn.
and you gotta add, finance and council to the day. You're gonna be here from 6 until like 8 or later.